I'll just do it.
You gonna do it for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not? Okay.
Don't forget.
So first thing we'll do is we'll just make a SSH rule.
Mine will probably be wrong. I tried like 50 different things.
Yeah, I disabled all your rules that looked different.
Okay, cool. Okay.
So yeah, so we'll start with making a rule under policies and security. So we'll just add. You can also probably clone the internal DMZ FTP rule because it's basically very similar with the exception of what service we're going to be using, which is SSH. So I'll name this internal DMZ SSH. And I'll put the tag as internal. So under source, our source zone is going to be internal. So this is going to be using a box. So like the Windows box or another rel box that we have inside the internal zone. So which works this time. Hopefully. Okay. I'll click it. There we go.
Is that inside or internal?
Inside?
That is inside.
Okay.
Same thing.
Sorry. Yeah, I think the nomenclature is switched somewhere, but inside is equivalent to internal. Okay, so that's good for source. So our destination, we are going to be going to, I believe it should just be DMZ.
Yeah.
And then the actual destination address needs to be our 10.20.122, that's your XX.254. So the way this works, I'll just draw a quick picture. So we have internal, we have firewall, and DMZ. Okay, so there's a gateway here, and there's a gateway here. And the way the traffic works is we have a box inside the internal zone, and we're asking to go to an SSH, well, a box over here in DMZ, so we're trying to SSH here. So the way this works is we ask as our SSH IP, we give it the gateway of the internal zone. So that's 10, sorry this is small, but 10.20, which is the internal subnet, dot your number, dot 254. 254 is the gateway number. So we're asking, please SSH me on port 22 to this IP. Now that doesn't make sense because this is an IP of the internal zone we're trying to get over here. That's what the next policy is for, the NAT policy. Network address translation basically takes an IP address and it translates it, basically changes it to a different IP address. So that's what we're going to work on next as soon as I finish this. So under applications, we're just going to add the SSH application. SSH, don't know what SSH tunnel is. I don't know the difference. We don't have to do service because we added the application, so we'll just click OK. So now we should have a internal DMZ SSH. We're going inside to DMZ, and we're hitting the gateway of the internal. Okay, so let's go to NAT. Let me make this work. And we're going to add a, well, first we're going to disable this one. Okay, we're going to add a NAT policy. So as soon as that loads.
You can see my car was trying to make it go both ways.
Oh yeah. That would be something you figure out, how to make it go both ways. We probably have to do 2 NAT policies. Anyway, so we'll name this internal DMZ SSH. We'll give it a tag of internal. Okay. Oh, we're still in security, that's why it looks different. Okay. Original packet. So our source zone is going to be inside internal. Our destination zone is, I don't want to guess on this, so let me actually pull it up. Inside DMZ SSH. I'm pretty sure destination zone is DMZ.
DMZ
I think it might be inside actually, but I'm not sure. Hold on.
destination.
Yeah. Yeah, it's inside because our destination is the gateway of inside. But then we
Oh,
translate.
From the user to the firewall gateway inside.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. The interface is 1, 2.
Good. That's very important for you to know which interface that is specifically mapped to the specific gateway. That is very important.
And then our destination is the gateway. So it's 10, 20, 122, 254. Okay. So remember, we're going inside internal to inside internal gateway. Right. This is the part where we translate. So our translated packet is going to be static because we have a dedicated machine that we want to SSH into on the DMZ, which is going to be our mailbox. And then the translated address is going to be its address. So it's going to be 10.21 because we're in the DMZ, .122.20. So this is important. This number has to match up with the number that you have set your IP on the Railbox.
FTP server.
The FTP server. Sorry. Or whichever box that you want to SSH into. Could be the same one, could be different. Okay, and then I also added translated port 22. I don't think that matters, but we'll do it because I did it. Okay. So we have both these. Hopefully this works. So we'll commit. And while that's happening, let's go over here on our Railbox, and we're just going to make sure that SSH is active. So we're going to SSH localhost, and then if it's good and it's online, then we should have this like prompt. So we want to, we can say yes, and it'll ask us for a password. I don't care anymore. We know that's working, at least on the Railbox. That's just making sure that the SSH service is running. Okay. What do we got here? Internal DMZ, SSH shadows, rule, destination.
I don't think that matters. I've been having those warnings the whole time.
Okay,
As long as it committed.
let's
properly,
hope that it
works.
doesn't matter. Maybe if we put. I just want to make sure this works the first time. So let me check and see what I've got. So I don't remember a warning inside unit. Okay. So this is possibly a thing to note. Notice how this has a service. Your FTP NAT rule has a under the service column. It has service-FTP. I didn't think we were going to have to make that, but we're going to make it. So real quick, if we go under here, I think we click nope. We'll click any. We'll change any to a new service. Okay, this is the SSH NAT rule. So we're going to make a new service. Okay, and we'll call it service SSH. Destination port 22. Okay, and I think that should be so. We'll say okay to that. Say okay to that. Okay, now we have service SSH and service FTP. Okay, I like that better. So let's just commit that real quick. So the reason why I didn't think we were going to have to do that was because on the previous lab, we changed from using that service FTP to using an application instead of a service. But I believe that the NAT, it seems like the NAT rule still wants us to specify a service. So we're gonna do that. I see, we don't have that warning anymore. So, I don't know if that would have mattered, but it makes me happier that there's no warning. Okay, so now we need to move a machine into our internal zone that can SSH into the DMZ.
I think I would have switched the IP, but you should check.
So you're gonna use the workstation?
Yeah, I
Yes.
used the workstation.
That's
I'm 3
3W, right?
C.
3C.
C.
Oh. Oh.
RGLC or
Yeah.
the Windows?
That one, not the Windows.
That one right
okay.
here.
I don't even think the Windows machine has SSH on it. I don't think
Probably
Windows
not.
has SSH.
Right.
Definitely didn't have Putty installed.
Okay. So the other thing we have to do is we have to make sure the firewall is also down on the workstation, the internal firewall for the rel box, because it will disallow SSH. Now, if you want to be really good, you can actually go and configure the firewalls to actually allow these services instead of just shutting it off, but I was lazy, so I didn't do that. Stop. Firewall D. There's some prompting. Okay. I'm just gonna grab status real quick, make sure it's down. Okay, we're down. So, here's my moment of truth. Oh, wait,
Check my IP.
yeah. Let's check the IP. So we should have an IP that is inside 4.20. Cool, that's good. So the 20 means that we're inside the internal zone, and the .20 is just our IP address in there. It doesn't matter for this.
You have to change that, by the way. I just had done it before. This is my box.
So if you do want to change it, let's hope this is right. If config, I think you specify the interface, and then you give it the IP. So 10, 20, 122, 20. That's how you would change your IP. So I'm not going to do that because it's already 20. So we're SSHing into, we're hitting the gateway, right? So 10, 20, 122, 254. Oh, okay. So it's saying, do we want to have the key for this? Yes. So it's going to think. Hopefully the latency is just the NAT working, so it's translating our address. We're gonna still wait. That was a really good sign. There we go. Yeah.
Wow, cool.
So we got, it's asking us for the password. Hopefully that's the right password. I didn't mess up. Nope, I messed up. There we go.
Yes.
All right, we're in. So tells me there's one failed login attempt. So just to make sure, or to confirm that our rule worked, we can go over here, and we should be able to see, maybe not the actual, should be a hit count.
Yes.
It's
On
monitored.
All right.
Yeah, like hit count.
Yeah, there's a hit
I
count.
hit refresh. So does it do?
Let's do that.
Or
It should tell us that we translated.
It might take a while too,
Oh, that's right. There is some latency with the logging.
but monitor's pretty instant.
Okay. If this doesn't work, we'll check it out. Hey, hit count 1. Okay.
Great.
So that's how you set up SSH. If there was that step that we did in the NAT rule where we we made the translated packet static and we gave it that defined box. But if we wanted to allow SSH into any box on the DMZ, we would just say dynamic. I think that would work. And so instead of translating the packet to that one particular IP.20 of our box that we had in DMZ, if we had 80 boxes in the DMZ, we could set that to dynamic, and I think it would just allow it would basically translate it to anyone, I
Mm.
think. Don't quote me on that, because I haven't tested it. But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, you set up a DHCP range
Yes.
and then allow the NAT translation,
Right.
and then so it will be, it will set dynamic.
I
You
think-
need to set the DHCP range
Right,
on
okay.
the firewall.
So there might be a little bit more work involved,
Yes.
but for doing your actual RHEL exercises, this will suffice.
Yes.
So, okay, that's it.
Excellent.